Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Katie Acosta. I am the Assistant Director for Recruitment and Admissions at the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. So I am excited to talk to you all today about our Executive MBA program at the Carey School. We'll talk a little bit about kind of the structure of the program, what you'll get out of it, and then I'll quickly touch on some kind of logistical points at the end about the application and funding and some of those things that we get a lot of questions about. And then I will, of course, leave plenty of time at the end for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat and the question and answer. And I'll make sure we get to those as we go through as well. So I know you've all been in here for a while, so thanks for sticking with it. I know I'm your last session of the day. And because of that, I won't talk too much about the general sort of value of an executive MBA program and leadership and all those things that we kind of often touch on, just because I know that you've already heard it a lot today. So I will focus a little bit more on kind of practical matters. But again, if you have any questions about the other stuff at the end, please let me know. All right, so a little bit about our Executive MBA program, kind of a quick rundown for everyone to see if this might be a good fit for you. So this is one of three MBA formats that we offer at the Carey School. We have our Executive MBA program designed for people with, 10 plus years of experience, as well as leadership experience. We also have a Flex MBA program, which is an online program, and then our full-time. All of our MBA formats are, the same overall degree. And so they are all 54 credits. So you're getting the same degree, just in what we consider kind of a different format. This is, as I'm sure you've already heard from Dave, a cohort-based program. So we have a fall start term in which everyone starts at the beginning. Generally, for this first incoming class that we have for our inaugural cohort, we will have about 20 to 25 students in that group. So it will be, kind of a small group meant to be a very tight-knit, kind of family-like organization there. It's a 19-month program, so just a little over a year and a half. It's quite intensive. You will finish quite quickly, but during the time it will be a lot of work, but we have designed the course in a way that really helps you kind of manage that work-life balance as much as possible in this intensive program. And we are based out of Washington, D.C. So I know a lot of times people see the Hopkins name and they might assume that we are in Baltimore. And Carey does have a campus in Baltimore as well. A lot of our other programs are run out of that, including our full-time MBA program. But this program is run out of our Hopkins Bloomberg Center, which is right in the heart of downtown Washington, D.C. I've got some pictures on the next slide that I will show you. And so, what we will focus on kind of in this webinar again is sort of talking through the curriculum, give you a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of the program itself. One other thing I will kind of point out about this program is that we do have AI integration throughout all of our coursework. So because we, have our inaugural cohort this year and been able to kind of revamp the curriculum for very much kind of the modern moment, we have been able to, integrate AI throughout the entirety of the curriculum. And so when we look at that, you'll see classes that are focused on AI, but you will also see AI in classes that aren't necessarily AI focused, right? Some of our business foundations courses, where we will talk about, AI platforms that you might be using in that area. So just kind of, what to expect. So this is our Hopkins Bloomberg Center. If you are in the DMV area at all, if you have ever been to the old museum building, it's right off the National Mall. We are in that old space. So we've been there for about 3 years. We are very, very, very lucky. It is a gorgeous space to be able to learn. In our executive MBA program, we are really lucky that we have space up on kind of the penthouse top floor on the 10th floor. We get our own terrace. It's really beautiful. Great views of the Capitol. Right, like I said, right next to the Washington, National Mall. So really a great space to be in. So if you ever want to take a virtual tour, you can take a screenshot of this QR code here and be able to see a little bit more of the building. And certainly if you're in the area, we are always happy to run a tour for you as well in our space. So a little bit about the curriculum. So we kind of put it into three different parts in terms of what you will be learning. First, we have our business foundations courses, and those are classes that are the same throughout all of those MBA formats. So everyone, whether you're in the full-time program, the flex program, or the executive MBA program, is going to take these same business foundation courses. And these are all the things that you expect out of an MBA program, right? Accounting and finance and marketing, all the things that you would expect to see in an MBA program. That being said, with the executive MBA program, there is going to be a slightly different slant to some of these classes, right? If you're in an accounting class, no one expects you coming out as an accounting analyst, right? That's not what we are preparing you for. People are coming in to be in higher level leadership positions, and so kind of the framework, the way that we look at a lot of these classes will be from that executive lens, from that sort of more systems level thinking of, okay, these are the skills I need to know because these are the people I might be managing, and I need to know the questions to ask to be able to really make sure that, our accounting principles are aligning with what we need for the rest of the organization. So, you'll have these business foundation courses, but the way that we look at them in the executive MBA is going to be a little bit different because we're less, concerned about you, again, getting into the weeds of accounting as being able to really look at that, again, from that executive lens. And then we have our cohort classes. So these are classes that were designed specifically for the executive MBA. So you would not take these classes in something like our full-time or our flex program. These were classes designed, this year for the executive MBA students in subjects that we think are just really important for them. And so you'll see that they focus a lot on kind of the leadership and strategy piece of everything. Like I said, I'm sure you've already heard a lot today about the kind of focus on leadership and strategy in executive MBA programs. And so these courses really tie into that. You will also see that we have several classes, again, around AI within these cohort classes. But like I said, even in those business foundations classes, you will see AI integrated throughout. And then beyond that, we have our electives. So with your electives, you have three electives. You can do a number of different things. You can really put classes together that you want, but you can also do one of our tracks within the program. We have two tracks. One is leadership and strategy, and one is healthcare. Obviously, being Hopkins, healthcare is a big thing for us. A lot of our faculty, do research in that area, or oftentimes, or even have, dual appointments with the School of Business and the School of Medicine or the School of Public Health. And so obviously we get a lot of people in our cohort are interested in that, as well as, again, kind of that leadership and strategy piece. But if you have other interests, you're not required to do one of those tracks, and you can really do what you like with your electives beyond that. And the one thing I will kind of point out here is that we do have this executive field project. That is an experiential learning course that is part of your business foundations. This was based off of something called the Innovation Field Project in our full-time program. Like I said, it is an actual project with a company somewhere around the country that you will be doing during your second year of the program. But again, from that executive lens. So it's less of, here's a consulting project that I'm on and I'm an analyst or a consultant. It's really more looking at it from, okay, how are we doing this organizationally? So just kind of wanted to point that out. And so this is our schedule for EMBA. You may not be able to see this very well. It's a little bit small, but this is also on our website. So if you ever want to take a look, you can see these EMBA residency dates. I think it's really helpful. Certainly if you were thinking about applying for fall 2026, just to be able to see, what the dates are for planning purposes, and if this feels like a program that is doable for you, in this sort of current academic year. But in terms of the structure of the program, right, it's that executive format that I think you've already probably seen with some of my colleagues. So it is a hybrid, essentially, program, partly online and then partly in person with our Washington, D.C. based residencies. So you have 13 of those, again, once a month, Thursday through Saturday. That you will do for those residencies. Then we have two week-long immersions or week-long residencies at the beginning of each school year, essentially, that you'll do. One global immersion. You may have heard Dave mention we are going to London for fall 2026 to study risk and decision making around kind of risk and volatility, but that will change year over year. And then you have that one executive field project. So those are kind of your in-person moments during the program. when you have your residency weeks, right, you'll do kind of residency prep that week before, right? So that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all of your coursework will be prepping to get ready for your weekend residency, and then you'll have those 3 days in residence. You'll be in-person classes, with your cohort, but then we will also have a number of kind of extracurricular and co-curricular activities happening, cohort building, networking events, and guest speakers that are specific for this group. So executives coming in, within the Hopkins network, as well as with a lot of our corporate partners. So there will be a lot going on during those residencies. They will be exhaustive, but I think you will get a lot out of them. And then in those weeks between residency, you will be in your online courses. And one of the things that we have done to help sort of manage this kind of intense, workload and to help you kind of achieve that work-life balance as much as possible is that you will essentially be focusing on one course at a time. So as you go through, you're typically in 3 classes per semester. And so during those times between kind of those residency weeks, you'll be focusing just on one class at a time. And that keeps you from having to, all of a sudden it's midterms week and you've got 3 major projects due on the same day or something like that. It just helps you kind of manage that workload and achieve that balance a little bit better. And then I won't go too much into our global immersion because I think you probably already heard a little bit about that from Dave. But again, this class will be going to London for, in the late spring, or I mean early spring, so it's really January of 2027. That will be great. You will meet with corporate partners, hear from executives on how they are again managing risk, in this current environment. You will also meet with academic partners at business schools that we have in the area, as well as a lot of, again, those co-curricular events in terms of networking events, alumni events. So a lot going on during the global immersion. All right, so just a little bit kind of about the experience outside of the classroom. You've probably, again, heard this a lot today about executive coaching and kind of the value that that provides you. But it really is a fantastic kind of opportunity to be able to do this executive coaching. So you will have individualized coaching sessions during this program that really kind of helps you hone your own kind of leadership style and your skills, and not only kind of helps you plan for what's next, but really kind of address where you're at, right? If you're having your own, leadership struggles in your current job, they can help you work through those. And so I think that's just really valuable for our students. I mentioned that we have these cohort-specific networking events. So especially during those residencies, we will have these small, intimate networking events that are really specifically designed for our executive MBA. So getting people, again, in our network who are really important to talk to for this group, right? People who are in kind of those decision-making roles that you really want to hear from, and bringing them in for something like a cohort dinner during your residency. Beyond all of those things that are kind of a little bit more tailored to EMBA, you do also get access to Carey's kind of overall resources, right? So access to our career and life design office, access to, again, not just kind of the network of your own cohort, but the broader Carey and then much broader Hopkins alumni network as well. So just a lot of resources there for you. And if you are, military or veteran, we are ranked very highly for working with students kind of in, either active duty or as a veteran. We have a great Yellow Ribbon program. We've also recently launched our Johns Hopkins Veteran Affinity Network within Carey. And then our faculty director, Dave, he does a lot with that as well, around things like Vet Academy within Carey. Right, and just kind of a few, tidbits about the admissions process itself. I won't go too far into this. We always do a lot of, application workshops before our upcoming deadlines. So if you do want to know more about that, happy to answer questions. But I won't go too deep into kind of the application itself, but just really talk about how we evaluate candidates. So one is that we have a holistic approach to every application. So it's not just one thing that we're looking at in your application. We're not just looking at, your undergraduate transcripts, your test scores, or your resume. We're trying to build, a diverse class with really varied experiences. And that goes for, making sure that we look at every kind of piece of that application. There are some parts that we, place a lot of value on, work experience, obviously, but it really is about all different parts. And so, we really are kind of assessing your whole profile to make sure that not only do you fit well within kind of the Carey infrastructure, and what we're looking for in the cohort, and that we think you'll be this like, really great contributing member of the cohort, but also that we're the right fit for you. Sometimes, students apply and the things that they want are just not things that we provide. They want something really specific that's just not something that Carey does. And so sometimes it's really just about making sure it's the right fit for you as well. So it's really kind of a two-way street there. And the other thing I will say is that we are here to support you. I work specifically with our executive MBA program. I don't work with anything else, just students for this. So anytime you would like to meet with me via Zoom or a phone call, or again, if you want to come to our Carey campus in Washington, D.C., get a tour of the Hopkins Bloomberg Center, have a coffee chat, anything like that, I'm really happy to connect with you. That is quite literally my job. So in any way I can, I'll do that. And just a few tips if you are looking to apply. Again, I won't go super deep into these, but again, it's really about showcasing your alignment with the program, right? Are you a good fit for us and are we a good fit for you? You've probably heard this in some other sessions as well. One of the things it's really important is to be very clear and specific about your goals, not only in kind of your essays that you write for your application itself, but an interview is part of the process for us. And so in that interview, we want to hear that you've really given us a lot of thought. You've taken the time to think about, how you'll manage this experience and what you want to get out of it. That's really important for us. And then, some of those things that are really important to think about when, again, you're writing your essays and doing your resume, is how you quantify achievements and impact, right, as a leader, and how you kind of demonstrate that leadership and impact. Those are some of the things that we really want to see. How have you been impactful in your career, right? What are the ways that you've taken on leadership, even in times that you weren't in a leadership position? Maybe what are ways that you were able to innovate in your job or take, leadership of a project or a program and really be able to kind of take that on. Those are the things that we want to see. Highlight your unique story. We get a lot of really great qualified applicants, right? And so part of this, idea of building a diverse cohort, it's not just about bringing people in from different industries and job functions and corporations. It's really about, bringing in people who will kind of, provide that like difference of perspective in all different ways, right? So not just that you're coming from a different work background, but people who are coming from kind of every walk of life, and things like that. So highlighting your unique story, not just kind of your professional impact. And one of the really great things that I already mentioned is about networking and engaging with the Carey community. I'm always here. We have a lot of things going on campus, both in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, that are often open to the public. So if you ever kind of want to check us out, but you want to do so in a more informal manner, there are a lot of things going on in terms of lectures or cultural events that you can attend as a member of the public. So a lot of really cool ways to engage with Carey. One is sort of recommendation letters, two strong letters of recommendation. So really from people who know you and your capacity to do graduate coursework. I always say the most important things with a recommendation is that they know you really well and are able to speak to your work. It's more important to have somebody who can do that than somebody who has a really fancy title. So just keep that in mind. For us, one of your recommendation providers does need to be a current or previous supervisor, and then really talking to your recommenders early. That is something I always really focus on. It's always the thing students are waiting on. They've gotten their application in by the deadline, but they are still waiting on a recommendation. So, do that early if you can. And then finally, proofreading and polishing your application. There are so many different kind of tools for that now. Rely on family and friends for this, right? Have them read over your application, and just really make sure that you have spent kind of the time and effort to make sure it's the best that it can be. And just a quick note about deadlines. So we have just finished with our round 4 deadlines. We are actually conducting round 4 interviews this week for students. And so we only have one deadline left if you are looking to apply for fall 2026. So our round 5 deadline will be May 15th. So you still have a lot of time if you are trying to meet that round 5 deadline. But if you do apply by May 15th, it's a pretty quick turnaround time. We do, decision release really about 2 weeks later. We're quite quick in terms of when you submit your application, when we do interviews, and when we release those. So you would know even, before the end of May if you were admitted to the program or not. All right, and funding, everyone's favorite topic. Just kind of a note about this and what it looks like. So tuition for the 2027 or 2026-2027 academic year is $175,000. That is a flat fee for the entirety of the program, charged over 5 different semesters. This includes all of your program materials. It also includes accommodations during all residencies. So that is something I point out. If you are traveling in, if you are not from the immediate Washington, D.C. GMV area, and would be, staying overnight, all of those accommodations are taken care of for you, both the reservations as well as the cost. The same goes for your global immersion in London, right? Those accommodations are considered part of your tuition. We do have merit-based scholarships available. So I would say, don't expect a full scholarship usually with an executive MBA program, but those can range anywhere from, 10% to maybe 25-30% of total tuition. You are automatically considered for our scholarship funding when you submit your application. So there's no separate scholarship application or supplemental materials required there. We will automatically consider you kind of during the admissions process. So just keep that in mind, as you're thinking about scholarship funding. And then, once you have that, students at Carey work with our Office for Student Enrollment and Account Management to kind of navigate the financial aid process. It differs for everyone, but, it's a high price tag, but it's one of those things that a lot of times students have some employer support, maybe some, merit-based scholarship, and then they do some via financial aid and kind of make it work that way. So, like I said, I won't go too deep into kind of the investment that you're making here. I think you've already heard a lot about the value of an executive MBA program and what it can bring to your overall career, to your overall, salary expectations. And this really is kind of an investment that you are making in you, but always want to be really upfront about funding and the way that everything works. All right, and like I said, connect with us. So this is my kind of one sub page. It's what we use for scheduling appointments. So if you do ever want to schedule some time with me, you can always use that link. And this is my email as well. You can always feel free to reach out to me via email. Happy to, answer any questions that way as well. And then questions, I'll actually go back to this. So if anyone wants that, they can keep it there. And I did see a few questions come in as we are going through, so I'll make sure I get those answered. So what does AI first actually mean in the classroom? Good question, right? So it's a little bit what I was talking about before. It's that you are going to kind of have AI integrated into all of the discussions you're having, right? So again, if you're in a finance course, you're going to learn finance principles, but you're also going to learn tools that you might be using or that are currently being used, kind of in that space, in that industry that you might need to know about, right? That maybe your employers or employees are using, or maybe, there's talk about, oh, we're actually going to bring in this new AI tool. Do you have any familiarity with it? Does it make sense for us, right? Like being able to not only be familiar with those things, but really to kind of navigate the pros and cons of what those platforms might be for your organization. That's really what we mean by AI first, that AI is now kind of inescapable, and no matter what industry you are in, it is going to be something that is going to kind of help shape the future of that industry. And so not ignoring that, but really when we talk about strategy, we have to talk about, kind of this AI strategy along with it. even if it's in something that's not specifically AI focused, right? We're in a marketing class or something like that. It really means that that's going to be a topic of conversation and how you might use AI in that context in almost every class that you have. Good question. True all-in cost, including travel and residencies. Great. I think you may have asked that before. We got to our funding page. So I will just go back to that page just in case that you're able to see that, but it's really that, like I said, 175 number. The only thing that's essentially not included in that is the cost of travel. So if you are, flying or taking the train or driving, that would be on you, but pretty much everything else is included in that tuition number for, the entirety kind of the program. Good question. How is executive coaching structured? Frequency, duration, personalization. So for the executive coaching, that will kind of happen within two ways. One is that during your residencies, there will actually be kind of group executive coaching with your learning group. So the way that learning groups work is that you will be put in teams of about 4 people, and they're the ones that you will be with sort of throughout the program in terms of when you have group projects due and whatnot. That will be kind of your smaller team within the cohort. And so there will be some executive coaching that happens within those learning groups as kind of more of a group situation during your residencies. And then when you're in your online weeks, there will be like once a month individualized executive coaching appointments that you'll have. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up? I think I'm right at time. I tried to be really quick. Sorry if I was talking too fast. But hopefully that was helpful for everyone as we go through. I don't see anything coming in, so we will probably go ahead and wrap up. Just want to be really respectful of everyone's time. I know you've had a long day with us, but hopefully it was all really helpful for you. Again, here is my contact information. So if you have any questions later, please just feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any questions I can, help in any way I can. Again, if you're looking to apply for fall 2026, our final deadline will be May 15th. So just keep that in mind. Start getting everything together. But thank you so much for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.